Hey everybody, Mr. Eric here, back with another headphone review. Today's headphone that we will be looking at is the Beyerdynamic TYGRs. Now, this headphone's been out for, I don't know, maybe like a year, or maybe even a little bit more, I can't remember. But it's still not very widely available. For a while there, it was only available if you bought like a $300 microphone kit with it and things like that. You can buy the headphones separately straight from Beyerdynamic if you can find it in stock, which is rare. As of the recording of this video right now, it is not in stock. As usual, I bought mine used. I think I picked mine up for around $150 or so, which for that price I think is a pretty good price. And let's dig in and kind of talk about it and how it maybe compares with some of the other Beyerdynamic lines, and then maybe another couple of headphones that might be kind of in a similar price point and fill a similar niche. So looking at the build here, this is typical Beyerdynamic quality here, which is a good thing, right? So it's super lightweight. It's metal yokes, but plastic pretty much everything else. You know, all the parts are replaceable, removable, pads are removable, you know, headbands are removable, all that. It does have a attached cable. The cable is about, well, let me just pull it out here. So the cable is about 6 feet long. It terminates in kind of the typical, you know, this is typical for Beyerdynamics, but it's 3.5 with a screw-on 1/4-inch adapter. And you know, it's attached and it's good. It's a good attached cable. I mean, of course I'd prefer if it were removable, replaceable, but yeah, I don't see any problems with the cable. It's actually a super nice cable for what it is. In typical Beyerdynamic fashion, these are just the chassis and the comfort and the clamp and just the pads and all of that is just, I don't know, it's close to perfect, okay? I think they do a wonderful job with this setup. I mean, all their headphones pretty much use it, and they've been that way for like 30 years, and there's a reason for that. Like, if it ain't broke, you don't fix it. So, typical Beyerdynamic, it feels good, it looks good. I think out of all of the Beyers, this is probably my favorite design language in that it's, you know, it's pretty subtle, honestly. It's basically just blacked out, but you can see there's like kind of like a, if you look at it the right way, there's like an orange accent kind of back there, which looks kind of cool. You got just like a simple little, you know, logo on the side. I don't know, it's good. It's all good. So I don't think there's really much else to say about it. It's quality, it's nice, feels good, fits good, well-made product. Let's move on to sound, and we'll make this a fairly quick review because I got a lot of good things to say about the TYGRs. They are, I would say, probably the best Beyerdynamic that I have tried, just as far as factoring everything in, sound quality, build quality, and value, right? So I like them better than the 770s. I like them better than the 880s, the 990s. I think I really actually like them better than the 1990s. Now, are they technically better than the 1990s? I don't think so, but just tonality wise and everything, I really like these headphones. They're easy to drive. They're only, I'll put it on the screen here, but I think they're just around like 32 ohms or something like that. So they're easy to drive and they're easy to listen to. They're wide, they have good imaging, they have really good extension on both ends. They're a great headphone, okay? You know, I mean, you got to come in with reasonable expectations. I mean, they're a great $150 to $200 headphone, right? So they do a lot of things well in that price point, and I think if you're looking for like a do-it-all headphone that games really well, this is probably one of the headphones that should be on the top of your list. Now, I think it's going to be easiest to compare these with another headphone that I think is kind of right around, you know, that $150 open, big, wide soundstage gaming type headphones. and that would be the X2HR by Philips. So these can be readily had now for, you know, pretty close to $100. I actually picked this setup, I think, for like $75 used. So at that price, I mean, this is a screaming value too, but we'll save this one for another video. I just want to do some contrasting between these two to help give you an idea of what you're getting with the TYGRs. So first thing to note is the TYGRs, I would say, I wouldn't call them V-shaped. I'd say they're pretty flat with some treble peaks is kind of how I would say it. But I would say out of all those Beyers that I mentioned, 770, 880, 990, I think the treble peaks are more controlled and smoother on this one than the rest of those. So again, it's a very easy listening headphone. These are both wide headphones. I would say in actual width, the X2HR probably has the edge just a little bit. But as far as like accuracy of imaging and layering, depth-wise, and just throughout the spectrum, I would say the TYGR wins that hands down. The TYGR has a little bit more, it reminds me a lot of like kind of it's kind of like a tweaked 880 signature is kind of what it reminds me of. Now it's been quite a while since I've owned the 880, but just from what I remember, that was a fairly neutral headphone. This has more bass, I would say, and a little bit less treble, but it has kind of the same presentation in that everything is kind of like away from you. You don't have, the headphone isn't emphasizing any frequencies or anything that they're like bringing forward. So vocals on this are pretty far back in the mix, honestly. Whereas on the X2HR, I think the imaging isn't as good. There's a lot of things far out, and then there's kind of like some things that are close up and in your face. So it's less of like a spectrum and more it's like it's either out there or up here. This is definitely more V-shaped. I feel like more bass for sure on this, but probably, and the cleanliness of the bass is probably about equal, but there's definitely more quantity on the X2HR. I think as well, the treble is a little more emphasized, a little bit peakier on the X2HR. Again, the TYGRs they do have some peaks up there, and there's definitely like a specific emphasis. I'm not sure exactly where in the frequency response it is, but if you think gunshots, reloads, footsteps, whatever that frequency is in there, I guess it's like what, like maybe around like the 3K range or something like that. I'm not quite sure, but that is definitely emphasized. There were certain instances where I felt like guitar crunch, and there were certain, you know, like percussive, like cymbal strikes and things like that were really a little more forward on the TYGRs, just compared to the rest of the mix. So there's definitely like a peak there that this is emphasizing, which makes sense because it's a gaming headphone, right? That's its purpose. So I would say that is a piece of the TYGR signature. Whereas I feel like the X2HR, it's just a straight up V shape, right? So that can be a super engaging listen, and that was like when I was kind of comparing them and stuff, I often thought that the X2HR was more energetic, a little more exciting, whereas I felt the TYGRs were a little more natural, a little bit more just accurate as far as like imaging placement and things like that. But I like them both, honestly. As far as value goes, I mean, if you can pick the X2HR up for like $75, obviously that's kind of like a screaming value. But really, I think I'd probably take the TYGRs, honestly, even at $150, like even twice the price of the X2HRs, just because I think they do everything and they do it pretty well. There were a few instances where I thought this kind of started to grate on me a little bit, you know, in the treble range, but for the most part, like, I just really have enjoyed my time with the TYGRs. And, you know, I think if you're looking for a Beyerdynamic headphone, these would be the first ones I would try, honestly. I would try it over the 880, the 990, the 770, the 1990. I would try this over any of those just because this one's going to be less amp picky than any of those other headphones. So it's going to be easier to drive. And again, I think the signature is like that Beyer signature, but I think for me, it's like the best version of it. So yeah, TYGR for 150 bucks, or if you can find it for 180 or whatever you can find it for. If you can find it, it's worth giving it a look. It's a great headphone. I don't think there's anything else to say about it. The X2HR, right, we'll dig more into that in maybe in a later video here, and I think I might do a comparison of that one with the 9600, the Schipp 9600, since I got that on hand too. So if you're interested in that or any more headphone related content, think about subscribing to the channel. I'll have more coming in the near future. And as always, thank you for listening, and feel free to comment, ask questions, give opinions down there below. And I think that's gonna about do it for this one. So quick video. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll catch you next time. See ya.